Right. So what I'm going to talk today about, oh, excited about it too, because it's like it's about becoming the safe place. And what we're going to talk about is just kind of like mindfulness. We're also going to talk about attachment theory for a little bit, and also the slow work of healing and what it does. And it's really important. It's really important work for all of us. And I just want to actually start with a story. And I want you to imagine that there's a small house and it lives inside you, and behind one of the doors in this room lives a child, and it's a child who's been waiting for a very long time to be seen. And every time that child kind of knocks on the door, maybe you've felt afraid to open that door. And we can make excuses. We have all these survival strategies, especially when there's pain involved. We can make ourselves too busy. We can exhaust ourselves till we're too tired and then have to sleep. And part of it is just that fear, a fear of what's on that other side. But that child, that hurt inside us, it's just going to keep knocking. It's never going to stop knocking. And then one day, something inside you says, this is the day. Today is the time. We're going to open that door just a little bit. And what you realize is when we kind of open it just even a little crack, the child doesn't rush out, right? He or she can just look at you. And what they're looking for with these longing eyes is just this hope that you'll stay, right? And that's what mindfulness really is. And it's not detachment, it's not dissociation, but staying at the door long enough, for the love inside us to replace the fear. And what I want to talk about today is what we're going to explore is what it actually means to become the safe place for ourselves, to build this inner environment that's sturdy enough to hold the pain, but it's also gentle enough to soothe it, and patient enough that we can actually return to it again and again and again when we forget, because we will forget. That's part of the process. Because I used to think that healing meant, finally being done with my pain. Yay, it's done. Right? And I kept waiting for the day that I'll stop reacting or stop spiraling or stop doubting myself. But over time, I realized that healing isn't the end of pain, but it's just the ability to hold it without running. And that's mindfulness. It's just to witness it, to hold it without judgment. And that's a really hard place to be. And it takes practice. It's not something we do right away. But I also want to talk about, kind of what gets in the way, because there's a whole anatomy process to our avoidance strategies. We're just going to begin with, why we avoid our feelings in the first place. And, I'm going to answer that with just going into attachment theory, because I think that'll help shed a little bit of light. But attachment theory tells us that from birth, our nervous system learns safety through relationships. That's true for everybody. And when caregivers, they respond with warmth and consistency, our body actually takes that imprint, that secure attachment. It's safe to feel. What we also realize is when care is inconsistent, when our parents can sometimes be rejecting or maybe they scare us, we learn something else. We learn that if we have feelings, they're dangerous. And if our parents aren't able to hold our emotions for us or with us, then we learn inside of our own mind as a young child is I must manage these alone. And what are we talking about here, just in that little story of that little child? Like, we're talking about avoidance. Right? And we're talking about it could be present itself as perfectionism. It could be, overthinking. It could be shutting down. And these are not flaws. They're actually adaptive strategies that our younger selves invented to survive those emotional starvation parts where it's just like all these emotions are there. And you know what kids are like? They have tons of emotion. And then when they kind of come out, they get punished or they get judged or they get all of those things. And, parents have a way of just giving us quick solutions. Stop that or do this or focus on that. And we realize as we grow up, we're doing those things to our own emotions. And what you're going to find that, we're going to be doing things like numbing out or criticizing ourselves, normal, for what? When our emotions are too much. But remember, it's not self-sabotage. That's that protection strategy. Because when you were first introduced into the world, your emotions were too much for most of the people around. And it was hard to relate when you had these emotions. They're going to come and they're going to go. But then the judgment that kind of comes when they came and they weren't held in a safe enough environment. Right? So I just want everyone to just kind of take a deep breath. I just want you to notice what's here. And just be observing. Just look at yourself from a distance. And just think about what are the ways that you learn to keep yourself safe when connection felt uncertain. It could have been shut down, it could have been anger, it could have been pleading, it could have been negotiating. It doesn't matter. What matters is that we notice it. Like for me, what it was achievement. Because I felt like in my mind, through my attachment style, was just like I performed well enough. If I did that well enough, maybe I'll earn closeness and admiration and people will like me. But that pattern, it didn't disappear when I grew up. It actually became the lens through which that I sought love, craving and attention, connection. And recognizing that, that kind of blew my mind because it was like incredibly humbling when it came to that recognition. But it also freed me to meet the part of me that was just simply scared of being unseen, ignored. Right? What we're talking about is creating something called a holding environment. And this is us becoming that caregiver that we never had to our own internal selves. And that space is a caregiver that creates, is so that child inside of us can experience big feelings without being engulfed by them or overwhelmed by them. And what mindfulness is that ability to just kind of step back a little bit. It gives us the tools to recreate that space internally that we didn't have in the past. We can bring it back into this moment. We can have those tools. Because every time that you pause before reacting, that's part of mindfulness. If you can go into your breath right now and just notice your breath, or you place your hand on your heart for a little bit, what you're doing is you're starting to build that environment. And call it like a field of awareness if you want, but it has to be large enough to hold both your pain and your compassion. Right? And it's like even in some of the visualizations that I use, it's just like, it's just have your feet on the floor. Expand to the whole room. Expand to the room next to the room. Expand to your whole home. Expand even further to your whole neighborhood. All we're doing is we're expanding what we can hold. And we can make it as big as the universe if that's what we need. But it's like whatever's here belongs, and we can create a space that's big enough to hold it. Because the nervous system, like the way our nervous system works, is it responds to the presence, the way a child responds to steady eyes. A child settles over time, right? And, I just want you to feel what that feels like, just to be mindful of where you are right now. If you close your eyes, that might help. But just hold, just witness. And just change your breath. I want you to inhale and exhale longer. Long exhales. And see what this does to your nervous system. So when you inhale, your heart rate goes up. When you exhale, your heart rate goes down. So just by changing this breath, we're also changing our heart rate. It also settles our nervous system. And I want you to just kind of notice one sensation in your body right now. And it might be a place where you feel warm. It might actually be tension. It might actually be anxiety. It might actually be your thoughts jumping from here to here to here to here. Now I want you to imagine your awareness widening, just going around whatever that feeling is, that sensation. create a soft space around it. And you can imagine it as like a light, a soft light that goes around a flame. Because we're not trying to extinguish whatever emotion's here. We're just widening it, and it's mindfulness. I want you to see that this is what a secure attachment feels like on the inside, even if we've never had it on the outside. I want you to see what this feels like on the inside. Us being able to widen the space to allow what's ever here without judgment, to know that it's okay. The whole thing is, I wish you could just do this one time and you're done. I wish. But healing actually is a cycle, because healing isn't linear. It's very circular. It's secular. It just kind of goes round and round. I want you to think of it like walking up that staircase, a spiral staircase. And what you're realizing is, no matter where you are, it's like as you're kind of walking up this staircase, each time you go another round, even though it looks exactly the same as the last time you went around the spiral case, what's different is you. You're actually looking at the same problem from a higher vantage point. And yeah, the scenery looks familiar, but you have changed. And every time an old wound reemerges, it's not regression. It's just repetition. That you're going through that again, but this time is your chance to go through that repetition one more time with a little bit more confidence, with a little bit more curiosity, with a little bit more courage. And the clients once told me, and just said, I thought I had healed my abandonment issue until my partner didn't text back right away, right? And I had to look at that, and I'm like, I had to smile, because it's just like, yeah, you did heal your traumas. You healed them enough to notice the trauma sooner, and then to stay with yourself the second time. That's healing. Because it's the work, it's repetitive. It's about noticing, it's about staying, it's about repeating the process the next time those same wounds kind of come up. And then being with yourself in a different way, just kinder and gentler. Because the nervous system learns through repetition. And each time that you meet the discomfortable feeling with curiosity instead of judgment, you're rewiring yourself for safety. Our mind is wired for safety, right? But it's also wired for survival. That's what the survival brain does. It's not meant to make you feel good or make you happy or look for joy. That's not what it is. It's meant to keep you alive. You know what keeps you alive? Survival. Survival keeps you alive. And when we get ourselves in these toxic environments, we have to go into these survival states. And then we can kind of get stuck in those loops. We can get stuck in those patterns. And the way that we kind of undo them is, we go the opposite way. We lean into the discomfort instead of running from it. So what helps us stay present when waves come? Because emotions are always going to come. They're going to come in waves. There are a lot of tools that we can use to do that, and it's important to remember. The first tool that you have in your arsenal is the body. It's the body. It's just like, feel your feet right now. Notice your seat. Notice your breath. Because where the body lives is in the present moment. The body can't live in yesterday. It can't live in tomorrow. Right? Our cells all regenerate every 7 years. All the cells in our body. When you wake up this morning, it was just like the lens of your eye is different from the lens that you went to sleep with. Every 24 hours, the lens on our eye changes. So the world is different today than it was yesterday. And it's been like that our entire lives. And over time, it's just like if every cell in our body regenerates every 7 years, anything that happened to us 7 years ago happened to a different body. It didn't happen to any of the cells that were in our body right now. And if we go back even further, it's just like 14 years. Well, then it's a memory that was written and then rewritten. So it's a copy of a copy. When we kind of go into the childhood stuff, it's just like, no wonder it's so hard to make sense of it. It's kind of like a photocopier that we just kind of photocopied half a dozen times, and then we're trying to make sense of it, right? That's what it can kind of feel like. But the body doesn't hang on to those things. The mind does. But every time that you come back into the sensation of your body and just whisper to your system, it's like, we're here and we're safe enough right now. So that's the first tool, is kind of connecting into your body. And the second one is the witnessing part of it. It's just awareness. And emotions are going to come and they're going to be there. We're all going to feel something all the time. And when emotion rises, I just want you to name it slowly. Here it is. It's sadness or anger or sorrow or guilt or shame. Whatever it is, just say, here it is. Witness it. Because naming it, moves the feeling from chaos into creating a relationship for it. Right? Name it to tame it. We have to name what we're feeling. Otherwise, we don't know what it is. We don't have a direction. We don't have what gets in our way. And the third is connection. And this can happen both inwards and outwards, right? And, talk to safe people. Let someone who has a calmer nervous system than yours lead yours, right? Or write to yourself, to your younger self, and just kind of say, hey, I'm here now. And you don't have to carry this alone. Because these parts that kind of come up, these emotions, are all connected to different stories, to different parts of our subconscious. And if we push them away, or if we avoid, or if we do all of those things, we're just leaving that child just locked in that room that just wants love and belonging from only one person, and that's you. And it's just like, it sounds so simple, right? It sounds so simple. And in some ways it is. But in practice, it's completely different, because I still have days where I forget, even the tools that I teach, right? There's still times where I shut down or I isolate or I'll doom scroll for 20 minutes. Right? But the difference now is I know how to come back. Right? I just notice myself in those patterns, and I just tell myself, of course you're overwhelmed. You're human. Right? Let's just start this again. Feel my feet. Anchor to the room, anchor to the space, label what I'm feeling. And, integrate. Integrate with yourself or somebody else. Right? And that self-talk, when we kind of fall into old patterns or any of those things, that's reparenting. Because you think you're going to be a perfect person, and it doesn't exist. Because we definitely couldn't be perfect children. We're still stumbling through the world. And that never stops. In a lot of ways, we're all just kids inside. But now let's kind of go from the mind to the felt experience, right? Because we're just going to bring everything, all this into the body. So if it helps, you can close your eyes, and if it feels right, I just want you to imagine a younger version of you, just standing a few steps away from you. And you can notice whatever age that younger person is. Could be 6, could be 16. And I want you to see if you can notice any of the details of this. What's their posture? What's their face? What's the expression? What's the feeling? Now I want you to imagine you, your present adult self, just approach with gentle eyes. Your job here isn't to lecture or to fix. You just need to say, I see you. You make sense. You belong. And I'm just here to listen. And just notice what happens inside you as you kind of hold that image. It might be feeling a warmth. It might be feeling of connection. It might actually feel deep sorrow. It might actually be resistance. This is stupid. Right? These are all parts. At least we know we're mapping out what's here. And whatever arises, it doesn't matter what it is. All we got to do is breathe into it. And breathe into it again. And just send love to that younger part of you. And notice what's shifting in them. And you can notice what's shifting in you. Because when we talk about attachment styles, what we're kind of trying to create here, in your imagination at first, but then in real life, what is secure attachment? And this is what secure attachment feels like, to build in real time. It's the nervous system, finally gets both the pain and the safety it needed all at once. And just notice what's shifting. Because healing isn't a destination, it's actually a relationship. And you will fall back into old patterns. You absolutely will. And you'll forget everything that you know when you're activated, when you're triggered. And then some small moment of awareness, some little thing in there, moments like the awareness will just reappear. And all of a sudden you can bring yourself back home again. And we do the process again. Because that return, the ability to come back, that's love in motion, self-love in motion. That's you reparenting. And when you stumble, which we all will, be gentle. Because the parts that still protect you, you know why they're doing that? They're doing it out of love. So we can thank them, we can guide them. They get in our way, absolutely. But they are trying to do some good work. They're trying to benefit you in some way. What we're doing here is we're just saying, we're learning something new now. And that's the voice of secure attachment. That's what we're going to become through the healing process. Right? And you can place your hand on your heart if that helps. I just want you to feel the rhythm that's there. And just notice how steady this is. Just a touch. It's like ancient. It's like chest has been here since the beginning of time. And whose chest is it? It's yours. And just kind of whisper into yourself right now and just kind of say, I am safe. And also expand into the room. I am in a safe place. I'm creating a safe place that I've always needed and always wanted. And then sit in that safe place for a little while. And just let that truth settle. You're not just putting it into your subconscious as an idea, but as a sensation. And then just kind of breathe it in. And as you go on with your day, I want you to remember, healing doesn't happen when you finally stop hurting. It actually happens every time that you turn towards the pain with love. And each time that you choose presence over protection. And each time that you remember that coming home is a practice. And that's all that we're trying to do in this process. It's trying to heal one step at a time. Go up that next rung, that staircase. Just allow whatever's here to be here. So, if this talk gave you something to think about, I want you to know that this is the beginning. Because healing from trauma and emotional manipulation isn't about perfection. It's actually about, returning to who you actually are behind the trauma. So I do ask if you can subscribe to the channel for more trauma-informed insights, for nervous system tools, for stories, just to help you remember who you are. And if you do want to go deeper, if you're ready for that step, then join the Narcovery newsletter, and you can access that at narcovery.com /open house, and you can come to the next open house and live event as well. And I host regular workshops and programs where people can just walk this path together. So, hit like, hit comment, and share this with somebody who you think is ready to heal. Because your healing, it helps other people find their healing too.